The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Elias Vance stepped onto Station Nexus 7 for the first time. The air smelled strange. It was clean and cold and carried hints of chemicals he could not name. Around him, alien cadets moved in groups. Some walked on two legs like him. Others floated. A few crawled on many limbs. None of them looked at him. Elias was 22 years old. He had brown hair cut short and eyes the color of wet earth. He was not tall. He was not short. He was simply average in every way that the galaxy could measure. And today, he was the first human ever accepted into the Galactic Defense Academy. He followed the signs toward the main hall. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. A group of Velnoxi cadets passed him. They were insect-like creatures with shiny black shells and many eyes. They clicked their mandibles at each other and did not slow down. One of them bumped Elias with a hard shoulder. It did not apologize. Elias said nothing. He kept walking. The main hall was enormous. Hundreds of cadets stood in rows. At the front, a massive screen displayed names and species. Instructors in gray uniforms moved between the groups. Everyone was waiting for something. A voice boomed through the speakers. It belonged to Commander Scythal, a reptilian Vorn with scales the color of old copper. She stood on a raised platform with her hands behind her back. "Welcome to Nexus Academy," she said. "You have been chosen from millions. You represent the finest of your species. Over the next 2 years, you will be tested. You will be broken. And if you survive, you will become soldiers of the Concord fleet." Elias listened carefully. He noticed that several cadets stood taller when she spoke. Pride filled their faces. They believed they were special. Perhaps they were. "Today," Commander Scythal continued, "you will receive your biological threat assessment. This classification determines your combat role and training path. It is based on your species' physical abilities, natural weapons, and survival traits. The assessment is final." A door opened on the side of the hall. Medical officers began calling names. One by one, cadets stepped through. They entered a scanning room. They came out on the other side. Their results appeared on the big screen for everyone to see. A Kreth went first. These were massive creatures made of living rock and silicon. They stood 3 meters tall and weighed as much as small vehicles. The scanner hummed. The screen flashed. "Kreth! Threat level! Apex!" The crowd murmured with respect. The Kreth cadet raised his stone fist in pride. Next came a Thalassi. She was tall and slender with blue-green skin and gills on her neck. Her people came from ocean worlds. They were fast in water and deadly with their razor-sharp claws. Thalassi, threat level, high. More Velnoxi went through. High threat, high threat. A species called the Morkai received apex threat. Their bodies could produce acid strong enough to melt metal. Then they called his name. Ellis Vance, human, Earth. The hall went quiet. Many had never seen a human before. Earth had only joined the Galactic Concord 3 years ago. Humans were new. Humans were unknown. Humans were soft pink creatures from a small blue planet in an unimportant corner of the galaxy. Elias walked to the scanner. He stepped inside. Blue light moved over his body. He felt nothing. The machine made a sound like a sigh. Then his results appeared on the screen. Human, threat level, low, negligible combat value. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the laughter started. It began with the Velnoxi. Their mandibles clicked in what Elias now understood was amusement. Then the Kreth joined in with deep rumbling sounds. Even some of the instructors smiled. On the screen, his classification glowed like a mark of shame. Low threat, negligible combat value. Elias walked out of the scanner. His face showed nothing. He returned to his spot in the crowd and stood with his hands at his sides. He did not look down. He did not look away. He simply waited for the ceremony to end. After the assessments, cadets were assigned to squads. Elias was placed in Talon 6. His squad leader was a Kreth named Gorvax. When Gorvax saw Elias approach, his stone face twisted with displeasure. "This is the human?" Gorvax asked the instructor. "He is yours," the instructor replied. There was amusement in her voice. Gorvax looked down at Elias, way down. The Kreth was nearly twice his height. "Humans," Gorvax said slowly, "are soft. You are short-lived. You are fragile. Your species has no claws, no armor, no venom. You cannot breathe underwater. You cannot survive in vacuum. You are perhaps the weakest species ever admitted to this academy." Elias looked up at him. "I understand. Do you?" Gorvax leaned closer. "Then understand this. During exercises, you will stay out of the way. You will not slow us down. You will not embarrass Talon 6. If you do, I will request your removal myself." Elias nodded once. "Understood." Gorvax seemed surprised by the calm response. He had expected argument. He had expected fear. Instead, he got nothing, just quiet acceptance. It made him uncomfortable in a way he could not explain. The squad moved to their assigned quarters. There were 6 members in total. Gorvax the Kreth, 2 Velnoxi named Scrix and Thal, a Morkai called Venice, and Yanara, the Thalasi female who had received her assessment just before Elias. Yanara was the only one who spoke to him that night. "You handled that well," she said. Her voice was soft and musical, like water over stones. "Most would have been angry." Elias shrugged. "Anger changes nothing." "No," she agreed. "It does not." She paused. "I am sorry for how they treated you. The assessment system is old. It does not always see clearly." "Perhaps," Elias said. He sat on his bunk and pulled up the training schedule on his datapad. He read through each module. Combat, tactics, zero gravity, survival. His eyes stopped on one entry. Survival Module 7, Variable Gravity Endurance. Elias read the description twice. Then he smiled. It was a small smile. Quiet, private, the kind of smile a person makes when they know something others do not. Yanara noticed. "What is it?" "Nothing," Elias said. "Just looking forward to the training." She found that strange. No one looked forward to the gravity test. It was famous for breaking cadets. Some species could not handle more than 1.3 times standard gravity before their organs failed. But the humans seemed almost eager. That night, as the station lights dimmed, Elias lay in his bunk and thought about home. He had grown up on a colony world called New Montana. The gravity there was 1.4 times Earth standard. Every step he had ever taken, every breath, every heartbeat had happened under that crushing weight. His bones were dense. His heart was strong. His muscles had grown fighting gravity since he was a baby. The academy had given him a threat level of low. Elias closed his eyes and smiled again. They had no idea. The first week at Nexus Academy passed slowly. Elias woke early each morning. He ate the strange food in the mess hall. He attended classes on tactics and weapons and galactic history. He trained with his squad, and every day the other cadets reminded him of his place. In marksmanship training, he scored average. His hands were steady, but the plasma rifles were designed for larger species. The grip was too big. The weight was wrong. He adapted as best he could. "Not bad for a low threat," Scrix the Velnoxi said with clicking laughter. "At least you hit the target." In zero-gravity maneuvering, Elias struggled at first. Humans had not evolved for space. His body kept trying to find a floor that was not there. But by the 3rd session, he was moving smoothly. The instructors noticed. They said nothing. In hand-to-hand combat, Gorvax partnered with him once. Just once. The Kreth threw Elias across the mat like a toy. Elias hit the ground hard. His shoulder burned with pain. He stood up and returned to his position. "Again?" Gorvax asked with surprise. "Again," Elias said. Gorvax threw him 4 more times. Each time, Elias got up. By the 5th throw, something had changed in the Kreth's eyes. Not respect, not yet, but perhaps a small confusion. Weak things were supposed to stay down. This human kept rising. After training that day, Yenera found Elias in the medical bay. A drone was treating the bruises on his arms and back. Purple and yellow marks covered his skin. "You should have yielded," she said. "Why?" "Because you cannot beat him. He is 3 times your weight. His body is made of rock." Elias watched the medical drone work. "I was not trying to beat him." "Then what were you trying to do?" "Learn." He flexed his shoulder. It still hurt, but less. "I learned how he moves, how he attacks, where his weight shifts. Next time I will last longer." Yenara sat down beside him. Her blue-green skin seemed to glow under the medical bay lights. You are strange, Elias Vance. Most beings try to win. You seem satisfied with simply not losing. There is wisdom in survival, Elias said. My species learned that long ago. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, the gravity test is in 3 days. I know. Are you worried? No. She studied his face. He was not lying. There was no fear in his eyes, no tension in his body. He seemed as calm as still water. The gravity chamber has broken cadets, she warned. Strong cadets, apex threat cadets. Some species cannot handle more than 1.3 times standard gravity. Their hearts fail, their bones crack. The record is held by a Kreth who endured 2.1 times standard for 11 minutes. And even he could not walk for a week after. Elias nodded slowly. What about your species? Yenara looked away. Thalasi are water creatures. We evolved in oceans where gravity is less important. On land, at high gravity, we suffer more than most. I will probably tap out early. You might surprise yourself. I doubt it. She paused. But thank you for saying so. The next day, Gorvax made sure everyone in the mess hall heard his thoughts about the upcoming test. 3 more days until we see who is truly strong, the Kreth announced. He stood at the center of the room, surrounded by his admirers. The gravity chamber separates warriors from weaklings. I expect all of Talon 6 to perform with honor. His stone eyes found Elias across the room. Well, most of Talon 6. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Gorvax walked toward Elias. His heavy footsteps made the floor vibrate. He stopped in front of the human's table and looked down. Perhaps we should request a waiver for you, Gorvax said. A medical exception. I would hate to see you crushed into paste on the chamber floor. It would be embarrassing for the squad. Elias looked up from his food. His face was calm. I appreciate your concern. It is not concern. It is practicality. Weak things break under pressure. That is simply nature. Perhaps. So you will request the waiver? Elias took another bite of his food. He chewed slowly. He swallowed. Then he said, I will manage. Gorvax stared at him. The human's voice had been quiet, polite, almost gentle. But there was something underneath. Something the Kreth could not quite name. It was not defiance. It was not arrogance. It was something older, deeper. It was certainty. We shall see, Gorvax said finally. He turned and walked away. That night, Elias found himself alone in one of the observation decks. The great windows showed the endless black of space. Stars burned in the distance like tiny fires that would never go out. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was New Montana, his home. He heard footsteps behind him, soft ones. Yenara. You come here often, she said. I like the quiet. She stood beside him at the window. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars together. Are you nervous? She finally asked. About tomorrow? The gravity test had been moved up. It would begin at dawn. No, Elias said. How can you not be nervous? Even I am nervous. Even Gorvax is nervous, though he would never admit it. Elias thought about the question. How could he explain? How could he tell her about New Montana? About walking through fields where every step felt like wearing invisible weights. About climbing hills that never seemed to end. About the burning in his legs and the pounding of his heart, and the way his body had grown strong without him ever realizing it. He chose his words carefully. On Earth, he said, we have a saying, what does not kill you makes you stronger. A strange saying. Perhaps, but there is truth in it. My species did not evolve claws or armor or venom. We evolved something else. The ability to endure, to adapt, to keep going when everything tells us to stop. He looked at her. Gravity has been trying to crush humans since we first stood up on 2 legs. We are still standing. Yenara did not know how to respond to that. There was something in his voice, a quiet pride that was not arrogant, a confidence that was not boastful. He spoke like someone who had already seen the end of the story. You really are strange, she said. Elias smiled. I know. They stood together until the station lights dimmed for night cycle. Then they returned to their quarters. Elias lay in his bunk and closed his eyes. Around him, his squad mates shifted restlessly in their sleep. Even Gorvax made sounds of unease, but Elias slept peacefully. Tomorrow, the gravity chamber would try to break him. It would push down on his body with invisible force. It would squeeze his heart and crush his lungs and make every movement a battle. And he would stand, because that was what humans did. That was what they had always done. They stood up, they moved forward, they endured. In a few hours, the galaxy would learn what that really meant. The variable gravity endurance chamber was a massive circular room deep in the heart of the station. Its walls were made of reinforced metal, 3 meters thick. The floor was covered with soft padding that could absorb the weight of falling bodies. Medical drones floated near the ceiling like patient birds waiting for prey. Ilias stood at the entrance with the rest of Talon 6. Around them, other squads gathered. Nearly 100 cadets would enter the chamber today. Most would not last long. Commander Scythal stood on an observation platform high above the chamber floor. Her copper scales gleamed under the harsh lights. Other instructors sat beside her with data pads ready to record everything. "Cadets," she announced through the speakers, "today you face the gravity test. The rules are simple. Stay standing. Stay conscious. Complete basic motor tasks when instructed. If you cannot continue, press your emergency beacon to withdraw." She paused. Her reptilian eyes swept across the crowd. Gravity will begin at 1.0 standard. It will increase by 0.1 every 3 minutes. There is no upper limit. The test ends when all cadets have withdrawn or when I determine it is too dangerous to continue. A murmur ran through the cadets. No upper limit. That was new. Usually the test stopped at 2.5 times standard gravity. "Take your positions." The cadets spread out across the chamber floor. Elias found a spot near the center. Yanara stood a few meters to his left. Gorvax and the other Kreth cadets positioned themselves near the front, ready to prove their strength. A deep hum filled the room. The gravity generators were warming up. "Beginning at 1.0 standard," a mechanical voice announced. Nothing changed. This was normal gravity for most galactic species. Cadets stood easily. Some even stretched their muscles. 3 minutes passed. Increasing to 1.1 standard. Elias felt a slight pressure, like someone had placed a gentle hand on his shoulders. He shifted his weight and adjusted his stance. Around him, cadets seemed unconcerned. 3 more minutes. Increasing to 1.2 standard. Now Elias could feel it properly. His body was heavier. His footsteps required more effort. But this was still less than New Montana. He had played as a child in gravity stronger than this. At 1.3 standard, the first cadets began to struggle. The Velnoxi were not built for heavy gravity. Their exoskeletons were strong but light. Scrix was breathing hard. Thal had dropped to one knee. Increasing to 1.4 standard. 2 Velnoxi from another squad pressed their beacons and withdrew. Medical drones descended to help them off the floor. Their shells had begun to crack under the pressure. Elias stood straight. This was home. This was New Montana gravity. His body remembered it like an old friend. Increasing to 1.5 standard. More cadets fell. The soft species withdrew. Some had to be carried out by drones. In the observation deck, instructors made notes on their data pads. Yanara was struggling. Her blue-green skin had turned pale. Her gills fluttered desperately, trying to pull more oxygen from the air. Her legs shook. Elias moved closer to her. Walking was harder now. Each step required focus. "Breathe slowly," he said. His voice was calm. "Deep breaths, in through the mouth, out through the gills. Find a rhythm." "I cannot," she gasped. "You can. Do not think about the weight. Think about the next breath. Just the next breath." She looked at him. Sweat ran down her face. But she tried. She slowed her breathing. In, out, in, out. Increasing to 1.6 standard. Yanara stumbled. Ilias caught her arm and steadied her. "Keep breathing," he said. On the observation deck, Commander Sithal leaned forward. "The human," she said to her aide. "He is helping the Thalasi." "Should we stop him?" "No, it is not against the rules, and I want to see what he does." At 1.7 standard gravity, Scrix and Thal both withdrew. Their beacons flashed red as drones carried them away. Half the cadets were now gone. The chamber was emptying. Increasing to 1.8 standard. Gorvax was visibly straining. His massive stone body was designed for strength, but even rock had limits. His joints groaned with each movement. His breath came in heavy rumbles, and yet the human was still standing. Gorvax turned his head. Elias was 20 meters away, sweating heavily, his face red with effort. But he was standing. He was walking. When the instructors called for motor tasks, he lifted the weighted objects. Slowly, painfully, but successfully. How? Gorvax thought. How is this possible? Increasing to 1.9 standard. Yanara could not take any more. She pressed her beacon with trembling fingers. Thank you, she whispered to Elias, for helping me last this long. Elias nodded. He did not have breath for words now. Everything was focused on staying upright. Increasing to 2.0 standard. Gorvax fell. The mighty Kreth, the apex threat, the squad leader who had mocked humans as weak and fragile, crashed to his knees. His stone hands slammed against the floor. His body shook. He reached for his beacon. His fingers found the button. He pressed it. And as he lay gasping on the floor, he watched Elias Vance walk past him without a word. Increasing to 2.1 standard. The Academy record. 11 minutes at 2.1 G by a Kreth Senior. That record was about to be broken. Only 12 cadets remained. 10 Kreth, 1 Morkai, and 1 human. Increasing to 2.2 standard. 3 more Kreth withdrew. The Morkai collapsed and had to be dragged away by drones. Elias could no longer stand straight. His back was bent. His shoulders curved. Every muscle in his body screamed for rest. But he kept moving. 1 foot, then the other. 1 step, then the next. Increasing to 2.3 standard. Increasing to 2.4 standard. On the observation deck, Commander Sithal stood up. She was no longer sitting calmly. She was watching with total attention. Pull his biological data, she ordered. An aide worked the console. Heart rate 165 BPM. Blood pressure, elevated but stable. Muscle strain, significant. No signs of organ failure. His homeworld? Earth. Standard gravity 1.0. Sithal shook her head. No, check his full records. Where did he grow up? The aide searched deeper. Colony World New Montana, settled by humans 40 years ago. Gravity 1.4 standard. Sithal closed her eyes. Now she understood. He has been training for this his entire life, she said softly, without even knowing it. Increasing to 2.5 standard. Only 5 cadets remained. 4 Kreth seniors and Elias. Blood dripped from Elias's nose. His vision was turning gray at the edges. He could feel his heartbeat in his skull. Every breath was a battle. Every step was a war. But he kept going, because giving up was not an option. Because somewhere in his blood, in his bones, in the deepest part of what made him human, there was a voice that said only one thing. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. The Kreth seniors looked at him with shock. This small, soft creature, this low threat, this negligible combat value human. He was outlasting their strongest warriors. Increasing to 2.6 standard. 2 more Kreth fell. Their stone bodies cracked against the floor like small earthquakes. Elias dropped to 1 knee. He stayed there for a moment, breathing, fighting. Then slowly, impossibly, he stood back up. In the observation deck, no one spoke. They just watched. The human was not supposed to be here. The human was not supposed to last this long. The human was not supposed to be possible. But there he was, still standing, still moving, and the gravity kept increasing. The chamber had become a place of suffering. At 2.6 times standard gravity, the air itself seemed thick. Breathing felt like drowning. Moving felt like swimming through stone. Elias was no longer thinking. Thought required energy he did not have. He was only feeling. The weight on his shoulders, the fire in his legs, the thunder of his heart. Each sensation told him the same thing. Stop. Rest. Give up. He refused. Increasing to 2.7 standard. One of the Kreth seniors crashed down. His stone body made a terrible sound as it hit the floor. Medical drones swarmed around him. His beacon flashed red. Now only 2 remained. Elias and 1 Kreth senior named Torvax. Torvax was the largest Kreth in the Academy. He had won the gravity test 3 years in a row. He was a legend, and he was looking at Elias with eyes full of disbelief. The human was bent almost in half. His nose was bleeding freely now. Red drops fell to the floor and were immediately pressed flat by the gravity. His skin had turned an angry shade of crimson. Small blood vessels had burst across his arms and face, leaving patterns like red lightning. But he was moving, step by step, inch by inch. He completed his circuit of the room. He reached the weighted objects. He lifted them with shaking arms. He set them down. He began another circuit. Torvax tried to follow. His stone legs groaned. His joints popped with sounds like breaking ice. He managed 5 steps before he fell to his knees. Increasing to 2.8 standard, Torvax pressed his beacon. He could not continue. The greatest Kreth warrior in the Academy had been beaten by a human. Ilias was alone. On the observation deck, chaos had erupted. Instructors shouted at each other. Medical officers demanded the test be stopped. Commander Sethal stood silent at the center of the storm, watching the small human figure struggle below. "We have to end this," someone said. "His body cannot take much more." "His vitals are still acceptable," another replied. "Heart rate 180, blood pressure high but not critical. He is bleeding from his face. His capillaries are bursting. That is not immediately life-threatening." Commander Sithal raised her hand. The room went quiet. "He has not pressed his beacon," she said. Her voice was calm, final. "To stop the test now would dishonor him. We continue until he withdraws, or until his vitals reach critical levels. Commander, with respect, this is unprecedented. No cadet has ever—" "I know." Sethal turned back to the window. "That is precisely why we must see how far he can go." Below, Elias had stopped walking. He stood in the center of the chamber, swaying slightly. His eyes were almost closed. His chest heaved with each breath. Increasing to 2.9 standard. His knees buckled. He did not fall completely, but his body dropped several inches. For a moment, everyone thought it was over. The medical drones moved closer, ready to collect him. Then they heard something, a sound coming from the human. At first, it seemed like gasping, but it was not. It was words. He was speaking. "Do not go gentle into that good night," Elias whispered. His voice was broken, barely audible, but the chamber's sensors picked it up and broadcast it to the observation deck. "What is he saying?" an instructor asked. Commander Sithal listened. The words were strange, foreign. They came from an old Earth language. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. It was a poem, a human poem. Words written centuries ago by someone long dead. Words about refusing to give up. Words about fighting against the end. Increasing to 3.0 standard. Elias dropped to one knee. His body was done. Every system was screaming for shutdown. His vision had narrowed to a tiny tunnel. He could see nothing but the floor in front of him and the path he still needed to walk. He coughed. Blood came out. Red splashed against the gray padding. The medical drones surged forward, but before they reached him, Elias moved. Slowly, impossibly, like a mountain deciding to stand. He rose. His legs shook so hard they seemed ready to shatter. His spine straightened one vertebra at a time. His hands clenched into fists at his sides. He was standing at 3 times standard gravity. No human had ever done this. No human was supposed to be able to do this. He took a step, then another, then another. 12 steps in total, a full circuit of the room, each one a miracle, each one a defiance of everything the galaxy believed about his species. When he reached his starting point, he stopped. He stood there for 3 seconds that felt like 3 years. His eyes found the observation deck. He could not see Commander Sethal. He could not see anyone. But he knew they were watching. He reached down to his belt. His fingers found the beacon. He pressed it. "I yield," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. Then he collapsed. The chamber went silent. The gravity generators powered down. Normal weight returned, but no one moved. No one spoke. They just stared at the crumpled form of the human lying on the chamber floor. In the observation deck, Commander Scythal realized she was holding her breath. She let it out slowly. "Medical team," she said, "get him to the regeneration bay. Priority 1. Drones descended. They lifted Elias's unconscious body carefully, gently, as if he were made of glass. They carried him out of the chamber and rushed toward the medical wing. The remaining cadets stood outside waiting for news. Gorvax was there. Yanara was there. Even Torvax the Kreth Sr. was there, his stone face unreadable. "What happened?" someone asked. "Did he break the record?" An instructor checked her data pad. Her hands were trembling slightly. "He lasted until 3.0 times standard gravity," she said. "He completed a full circuit at that weight. The previous record was 2.1 for 11 minutes. He exceeded that by a significant margin." Silence. "That is impossible," Torvax said. "I was there. I felt that weight. Nothing organic should be able to move at 3.0. Nothing." "And yet he did." Gorvax turned away. He walked down the corridor alone. His stone feet made heavy sounds on the metal floor. In his chest, something he had never felt before was growing. It was small and cold and deeply uncomfortable. It was fear. He had called humans weak. He had called them fragile. He had said they were perhaps the weakest species ever admitted to the Academy. He had been wrong. Inside the medical bay, machines worked to repair Elias's body. Regeneration fluid surrounded him. Nanobots swam through his blood, fixing ruptured vessels and damaged tissue. His heart rate slowly returned to normal. His breathing steadied. He would recover. Humans were good at that. They broke, and then they healed, and then they came back stronger than before. The instructors reviewed the footage over and over. They studied his biometrics. They analyzed his movements. They tried to understand how a low-threat species had accomplished the impossible. And in the end, they found only one explanation. Humans did not know when to quit. They did not accept limits. They looked at the impossible and treated it as a challenge. The gravity chamber had tried to break Elias Vance. Instead, it had revealed what humans really were, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Elias opened his eyes to soft blue light. He was floating in warm liquid. Machines hummed around him. For a moment, he did not know where he was. Then memory returned. The chamber, the weight, the blood, the poem. He tried to move. His body responded slowly, like waking from a deep dream. A medical drone noticed his movement and made a soft chiming sound. Seconds later, the regeneration tank began to drain. A medical officer helped him stand. His legs felt strange, weak but whole. The pain was gone. Only a deep tiredness remained. "How long?" Elias asked. His voice was rough. 2 days, the officer said. She was a species he did not recognize. Small and gray with large dark eyes. "Your body required significant repair. You had multiple internal injuries, ruptured blood vessels, muscle tears, minor fractures in 3 vertebrae. Elias nodded slowly. He had expected as much. "But you are healing remarkably fast," she continued. There was surprise in her voice. "Human recovery speed is apparently quite impressive. You should be able to walk normally by tomorrow." They gave him clothes and water. He sat on a medical bed and drank slowly. His hands were steady now. The red patterns from the burst capillaries had faded to faint pink lines. The door opened. Yanara stood there, her blue-green skin bright against the white walls of the medical bay. "You are awake," she said. "I am." She walked closer. Her eyes studied his face as if seeing him for the first time. "Do you know what happened while you were asleep?" "No." The footage of the gravity test spread across the station, then across the sector, then across the entire Concord network. She paused. Humans are all anyone is talking about. Elias was not sure how to respond. He had not done it for attention. He had done it because giving up was not an option, because his body knew how to endure even when his mind wanted to stop. "There are news reports," Yanara continued, "debates, scientific studies. Everyone wants to understand how you did what you did." She sat down beside him. "You terrified them, Elias. All of them. The Kreth, the Velnoxi, even the instructors. They do not understand a species that refuses to break." "We break," Elias said quietly. "We just get back up after." She smiled. It was a sad smile, full of something he could not name. "That is what makes you terrifying." The next morning, Elias was released from the medical bay. He walked slowly through the station corridors. Cadets stopped to stare as he passed. Some whispered, some pointed. A few Velnoxi actually stepped back, giving him more room than necessary. He ignored them all. In the mess hall, Gorvax was waiting. The massive crest stood near the entrance like a stone wall. When Elias approached, he did not move aside. "Human," Gorvax said. "Gorvax." They stood there in silence. The mess hall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Gorvax's stone face was hard to read, but something had changed in his eyes. The mockery was gone. The contempt was gone. In their place was something that looked almost like uncertainty. "I was wrong about you," Gorvax said. The words came out slow and heavy, like stones dropping into deep water. "I called your species weak. I said you had no value in combat. I said you would embarrass our squad." He paused. "I was wrong." Elias waited. "You have earned my respect," Gorvax continued. "Not as an equal. The physical gap between our species is still vast. But you have shown that strength is not only about size or power. There is something in humans that I do not understand, something that refuses to yield." "Thank you," Elias said simply. Gorvax nodded once. Then he stepped aside and let Elias pass. 3 days later, all cadets were summoned to the main hall. Commander Scythal stood on the platform again. Her copper scales gleamed under the lights. Her expression was serious but not unkind. "Cadets," she began, "the biological threat assessment system has served the Concord for 300 years. It has classified thousands of species based on their natural abilities. It has rarely been wrong." She paused. "But rarely is not never." Whispers spread through the crowd. "Recent events have demonstrated that our classification of humans was incomplete. We measured their size, their strength, their natural weapons. We found them lacking. We assigned them a low threat rating." Her eyes found Elias in the crowd. "We failed to measure what truly matters." She raised a datapad. "After a formal review by the Academy Council and the Concord Biological Assessment Committee, the classification of humans has been changed." She read from the pad. "Species human, homeworld Earth. New threat level, adaptive, unrestricted." The hall erupted in noise. Cadets shouted questions. Instructors exchanged confused looks. Adaptive. Unrestricted was a classification that had not been used in 200 years. It was reserved for species whose threat level could not be measured by normal means. Species that could not be predicted. Species that could be anything. Commander Scythal raised her hand for silence. "Let this be a lesson to all of you," she said. "The galaxy is vast and full of surprises. Do not assume you understand a species because you have seen their bodies. Do not judge their worth because they lack claws or armor. The Concord's classifications are based on averages." She looked directly at Elias. "But humans, it seems, do not believe in average." After the assembly, Elias returned to Talon 6's quarters. His squad mates were waiting. Gorvax, Scrix, Thal, Venice, and Yanara. They stood in a circle around the common area. For the first time, no one seemed to know what to say. Scrix broke the silence with a clicking sound that Elias now recognized as nervous laughter. "So, we have an adaptive, unrestricted in our squad. That is new." "It changes nothing," Elias said. "I am still the same person I was before." "No," Gorvax said. "You are not. Before you were the human we had to carry. Now you are the human who showed us what endurance really means. There is a difference." Yanara stepped forward. "Tomorrow we have tactical exercises. The instructors will be watching closely. Everyone in the academy wants to see what you do next." Elias thought about that. The pressure would be greater now. The expectations would be higher. Every move he made would be studied and analyzed. They would wait for him to fail, to prove that the gravity test was a fluke. He found that he did not mind. "Then we should train hard tonight," he said. "I have no intention of disappointing them." Gorvax made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was hard to tell with Kreth. The next morning, Talon 6 marched to their tactical exercise together. For the first time, Elias walked at the center of the formation. Not at the back, not at the side. At the center where important members stood. No one questioned it. No one objected. It simply felt right. As they walked, Yanara moved closer to Elias. Her voice was soft so only he could hear. "What will you do next time they underestimate you?" Elias looked at her. Then he looked ahead, at the corridor stretching out before them, at the challenges waiting, at the doubters who still whispered, at the galaxy that was only beginning to learn what humans could do. He smiled. The same thing we always do, he said. Adapt, endure, overcome. Behind them, the other cadets watched. The Velnoxi, the Kreth, the Morkai, the Thalasi. A dozen species who had laughed at the human when he first arrived, who had called him weak, who had given him a threat level of low. None of them were laughing now. Humanity had arrived at Nexus Academy. One small human from a colony world called New Montana had shown them what that meant. And as news of the gravity test spread across the galaxy, as scientists studied the footage and commanders revised their strategies, as politicians debated and philosophers wondered, one truth became clear to everyone. The galaxy was no longer the same. Humans were here, and they were just getting started.